Ernst Röhm, a homosexual at the head of the Nazi army. Mussolini called him a pervert, a disgrace to the Reich. Hitler called him a friend. The second most powerful military figure in the country, and the only person around Hitler who openly opposed him, who had his own army, who could say no. Within a few weeks, he would be dead. Today I'm going to tell you about a man almost no one knows, and without whom no one would ever have known Hitler. When we talk about Nazi Germany, we always name the same names: Hitler, Goebbels, Himmler, Goering. But there is a man who comes before all of them in time. He was part of this story before most of them had even appeared on the scene. His name was Ernst Röhm. Röhm wasn't just an ally. He was the man who in 1919 put weapons and money into the hands of a nobody corporal who built the stormtrooper army from scratch. Munich, 1887. Röhm was born into the family of a modest railway official. No military tradition, but at 19 he enlists in the army on his own. It would be his only true passion for the rest of his life. In 1914, the First World War begins. Röhm is a battalion adjutant, 26 years old. First wound, a bullet to the face. Part of his nose is irreparable. Surgeons do what they can, but the scar remains forever. Röhm returns to the front. To understand what Röhm went through, you have to understand what Verdun was, the longest battle of the First World War. 10 months, February through December 1916. Combined casualties on both sides, over 700,000, around 300,000 dead. German command designed it from the outset as a mincing machine, a battle not to seize territory, but to systematically bleed the French army dry. In the end, it bled both sides. Röhm personally leads the assault on the French fortification at Theilmont. His regiment loses 10 officers and around 1,000 soldiers in that one attack. Röhm takes a bullet to the chest, serious wounds to the jaw, another scar across his face. Total for the war, 3 wounds, half his nose shot off, a hole in his cheek, Iron Cross First Class. 1919. For Röhm, this is not merely a military defeat, it is a personal catastrophe. 4 years of war, 3 wounds, friends lost, all for what? For the Treaty of Versailles, which limited Germany's army to 100,000 men. While Germany is in chaos, communist uprisings, street battles, empire collapsing into nothing, he goes straight back to work. In early 1919, he joins the Freikorps under General Franz von Epp. The Freikorps were private paramilitary units made up of veterans with nowhere to go and nothing to lose. By January 1919, there were already 103 such units across Germany, totaling up to 1.5 million men. In May 1919, Röhm fights in the streets of Munich, suppressing the Bavarian Soviet Republic, the short-lived communist government that had seized power in Bavaria. He is one of those who destroys it. From 1919 to 1923, he remains a captain in the Reichswehr, while secretly funneling weapons and money to right-wing groups across Bavaria. This earns him his nickname, the Machine Gun King of Bavaria. Röhm had dreamed of being a soldier since childhood. He wrote as much in his 1928 memoir. The book was called The Story of a Traitor. I remain a soldier today, only a soldier. Since I am an immature and depraved person, war and unrest attract me more than orderly bourgeois life. Harshness commands respect. People need a healthy fear. A political meeting in Munich. Röhm, stocky, shot through, scarred across his whole face, and suddenly before him stands a pale, thin man with a fanatical gleam in his eyes, speaking in short, sharp sentences so that the people around him fall silent and listen. They leave together and sit in a cellar until midnight, discussing how to fight the revolutionary movement. Two angry men who have lost everything. One knows how to talk, the other knows how to fight. His name is Adolf Hitler. At that moment, nobody outside a few Munich circles has heard of him. They connect instantly. Both hate Versailles. Both want revenge. Both despise the Weimar Republic. But they have different roles. Hitler can speak in a way that makes people willing to follow him. Röhm can procure weapons and organize men. And Röhm begins to act. Using his connections in the Reichswehr, he helps find the money to buy the Völkischer Beobachter, 60,000 marks raised through his commander, General von Epp, whom Röhm himself brought into the party. That paper would become the main mouthpiece of the Nazi Party. Röhm opens access to secret army weapons depots. He brings in new people. His relationship with Hitler was unlike anyone else's in the party. Röhm called him simply Adolf. Not my Führer, not Herr Hitler, just his first name. Without Röhm, Hitler would have had no money, no weapons, no newspaper, and no first serious people in the party. In August 1921, with Röhm's direct involvement, a paramilitary unit is created within the party, initially called the Gymnastics and Sports Division. In October, Hitler renames it the Sturmabteilung, the Storm Detachment, or SA, the Brown Shirts. Who joined? former soldiers without work, Freikorps veterans, youth from the poorest neighborhoods, people with nothing to lose who are angry at everything and everyone. Röhm understands these men instinctively. He is one of them. The SA's mission is simple: guard party meetings and break up opponents' rallies. Germany in the early 1920s is a country of street violence. Political parties literally went to war with each other. Communists would come to disrupt Hitler's speeches. The SA physically threw them out. By 1923, the SA had several thousand members. The first major confrontation came in November 1921. The Nazi Party was holding a meeting at the Hofbrauhaus in Munich. Several hundred communists arrived to disrupt it. A small SA unit met them in the hall. The brawl became a genuine battle. The SA threw all opponents into the street. The Nazis called this the Saalschlacht, the Battle of the Hall, and turned it into legend. In October 1922, Hitler took 800 stormtroopers to the city of Coburg for a nationalist demonstration. Police had banned the march through the city. Hitler ignored the ban. Street clashes with socialists and communists broke out. The SA pushed straight through. Germany is suffocating. France has occupied the Ruhr, the industrial heartland of the country. Hyperinflation has destroyed the savings of the middle class. Riots in the streets. Hitler and Röhm decide the moment has come. They understand that a party army alone isn't enough. They need a name. General Erich Ludendorff, one of Germany's leading commanders in the First World War, a national hero, a man millions of Germans trusted. They bring him in as a living banner, so the army and right-wing circles will believe the putsch is serious. Three men who effectively ruled Bavaria under emergency powers. Their support is what's needed for the March on Berlin. The Bürgerbräukeller, an enormous hall for 3,000 people. A closed meeting of Bavaria's political leadership is being held there. State Commissioner Gustav von Kahr, Army Commander General von Lossow, and Police Chief Colonel von Seisser. Hitler bursts into the hall with 603 armed SA men, fires a shot into the ceiling, and declares, "The national revolution has begun." At gunpoint, he drags the three officials into a back room and demands their loyalty. At the same moment, Röhm is acting at the other end of the city. His task? To seize the War Ministry at Ludwigstrasse 24. He leads a detachment of stormtroopers to the building and takes control. The army surrounds the building from outside, but there are no shots yet. Röhm holds his position and waits. But the plan falls apart that very night. Kahr, Lossow, and Seisser escape and immediately switch sides. At 2:55 a.m., they officially withdraw their participation and declare that their agreement was obtained under duress. Röhm still holds the ministry, but the army outside has brought up reinforcements. First casualties. Röhm holds. Hitler realizes the putsch has failed, but retreating means losing everything. Ludendorff makes the decision: march through the city, push through to Röhm. Hitler and Ludendorff's forces, around Das Milan's men, move out in column through Munich. At the Odeonsplatz, in front of the Feldherrnhalle, the column is met by a blocking detachment. 130 soldiers of the state police under Lieutenant Michael von Godin. Gunshots. Who fired first is still disputed. The result? 16 Nazis killed, 4 police killed. Goering takes a bullet to the groin. Hitler dislocates his shoulder. The column scatters. The wounded Hitler is driven to the Hamsteingl Villa in Ufing. On the 11th of November, he is found and arrested. Röhm surrenders at the ministry almost immediately. He does not go into hiding. Both are charged with high treason, an offense carrying the death penalty or a minimum of 5 years. Hitler receives 5 years, the absolute minimum. The judges in the Bavarian court were sympathetic to the nationalists. Hitler walks free after 8 months, December 1924. His conditions in Landsberg Fortress were like a holiday. His own room, visitors, books, walks. It was there he dictated Mein Kampf to Rudolf Hess. Röhm receives 1 year and 3 months, suspended. He walks free immediately. The reason is the same. The court was lenient with nationalists, and Röhm was also a serving officer with combat decorations. Röhm walks free. The putsch cost him his Reichswehr commission. He is dismissed from the army. Inside the party, arguments break out over direction. Hitler declares that power must be sought through elections. Röhm is categorically against. He believes only in direct action. In 1925, they part ways. Röhm leaves all political structures. In 1928, an offer arrives from South America. The Bolivian government, through retired Prussian General Hans Kunt, is looking for German military advisors. Röhm agrees. Bolivia gives him the rank of lieutenant colonel. Why him specifically? Because he had a reputation. A veteran of 3 wounds, organizer of Bavaria's largest paramilitary formations, a man with real combat experience. There were many such men in Germany, but Röhm could not just fight. He could build military structures from scratch. In 1930, Bolivia experiences a coup. Röhm is forced to take refuge in the German embassy, and at that exact moment the phone rings from Germany. It's Hitler. The Nazi Party has just won 18% of the vote in the elections, the second best result in the country, and Hitler says simply, "I need you." Rome returns by steamship in September 1930. In January 1931, Hitler personally appoints him Chief of Staff of the SA. When Röhm took command, the SA had 77,000 members. A year later, 290,000. By January 1933, when Hitler became Chancellor, 430,000. By mid-1934, 3 to 4 million. For comparison, the entire regular German army under the Treaty of Versailles, 100,000 men. The SA was 30 times larger. How did he do it? The Great Depression had thrown millions of unemployed Germans onto the streets. The SA offered a uniform, a purpose, brotherhood, and a sense of power to people who had nothing. Röhm understood these men instinctively. He was one of them. He reorganized the SA on strict military principles, regional commands, ranks, training, discipline. He turned a mob into a structure. His personal popularity within the SA grew to the point that by 1933 it rivaled Hitler's own. In late 1933, Hitler appointed Röhm a minister without portfolio, a full cabinet position. Röhm became the first openly gay politician to hold a government post in German history. For a brief time in 1933-34, Röhm sat at the cabinet table beside Hitler, the same man to whom he had given a pistol and 60,000 marks in a Munich cellar in 1919, was now his head of government, and Röhm still called him Adolf. Röhm had a clear political vision and did not hide it. In October 1933, he wrote an official letter, preserved in the archives. I consider the Reichswehr now merely a training institution for the German people. The conduct of war, and therefore mobilization, is the task of the SA. For him, the revolution was not yet over. Hitler had become chancellor, fine, but real power had remained with the same people, the old guard generals, the industrialists, the aristocracy. The same men who had lost the First World War still ran the army. Röhm wanted exactly what he called the Second Revolution, a genuine, soldierly, socialist one. He wanted the SA to absorb the Reichswehr and become a single new model people's army built from below, with himself at the head, in the role of defense minister. At a cabinet meeting in February 1934, he put the question directly. The generals were shocked. In January 1934, Röhm delivers an official memorandum to Defense Minister Blomberg. The SA must replace the regular army as Germany's primary land forces, and the Reichswehr must become merely an auxiliary training appendage to the SA. General Blomberg reads this and goes straight to Hitler. General Reichenau, the liaison officer between the army and the party, also received Röhm's letter with the same demands. He and Blomberg were genuinely alarmed. It seemed to them that the SA was trying to absorb the army in exactly the same way the SS had already absorbed the political police. Hitler needed the general's support for German rearmament, and especially to inherit the presidential post after the dying Hindenburg, who was approaching 87. On the 21st of June 1934, Hitler flies to see Hindenburg. At the meeting, Defense Minister Blomberg warns him directly. If he does not rein in the radical wing of the party, the president will declare martial law and hand power to the army. And then an unexpected voice speaks. Goebbels, the regime's chief propagandist, would write in his diary after Röhm's death. What Röhm wanted was essentially right. If he had been a decent man, 100 generals would have been shot that day, not 100 SA commanders. The whole course of events was deeply tragic. Röhm had two mortal enemies working methodically and patiently against him. Hermann Göring, officially the second man in the party. He had built his own power base, control over the Prussian police, his own intelligence network, his own political ambitions. Röhm, with 3 million men behind him, was a direct threat to all of it. For Göring, this was not ideology. It was survival. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS. Formerly, the SS was part of the SA, meaning it was subordinate to Röhm. While the SA was a 3 million strong army, the SS was its smaller, subservient little brother. Himmler had spent years building the SS into something disciplined and elite, and he wanted full independence from Röhm's command. The first weapon was Röhm's homosexuality. It had been an open secret for years. Röhm never hid it. In 1931-32, his personal letters leaked to the press, letters in which he described himself as oriented toward the same sex. The scandal exploded publicly. Left-wing groups mocked the stormtroopers in the streets. The Soviet press began claiming that homosexuality was a specifically fascist trait. Hitler initially defended Röhm. Göring acted methodically. He tasked Rudolf Diels, head of the Gestapo, which Göring himself controlled at that point, with investigating Röhm's inner circle. Diels delivered a report to Hitler in January 1934 at his Ober-Salzburg residence. Röhm had allegedly conspired with former Chancellor von Schleicher and supposedly received 12 million marks from French intelligence to overthrow the government. The evidence was almost entirely fabricated, but it hit its mark. Pressure came from outside Germany too. Mussolini, Hitler's closest foreign ally, met with him in late June 1934 and said directly, Röhm's forces were bringing disgrace on the good name of Germany. Even Italy was pressing for Röhm's removal. They bring Hitler evidence. The Reichswehr generals press directly. Either the SA or our support. Choose. President Hindenburg is dying. Hitler needs the army behind him to inherit the post. Industrialists are frightened by talk of a second revolution and what it would mean for their factories and money. Hitler wavers for months. Röhm is his oldest friend, the man to whom he owes his very existence as a politician, but the pressure wins out. Hitler calls Röhm personally, asks him to gather all SA leaders on the 30th of June at the resort hotel in Bad Wiessee, outside Munich. Röhm agrees and goes to rest there with his men. He suspects nothing. Hitler personally boards a plane and flies to Munich. Behind him, columns of SS vehicles. His driver Erich Kempka would later recall, Hitler entered Röhm's room alone, a riding crop in his hand. Behind him, 2 detectives with pistols at the ready. He said, "Röhm, you are under arrest." Röhm and the other SA officers are taken to Munich's Stadelheim prison. Hitler initially hesitates about Röhm, too much shared history, but under pressure from Goering and Himmler, he makes the decision. Into the cell walks the commandant of Dachau concentration camp, Theodor Eicke. He places a pistol with 1 round on the table. He says, "The Führer gives you one last chance to draw the right conclusions. 10 minutes. 15 minutes later, Eicke returns. Röhm is standing in the middle of the cell, bare from the waist up. If Adolf wants to kill me, he should do the dirty work himself." Eicke fires. His deputy Lippert adds a second shot. Röhm falls, still alive, and his last words are, "Mein Führer, mein Führer." Eicke replies, "You should have thought of that sooner." Röhm dies on the 1st of July, 1934. He is 46 years old. People who had written the wrong thing in a newspaper years before were killed. Hitler settled accounts with Gustav von Kahr, the very man who had betrayed him at the beer hall putsch 11 years earlier. After that night, Hitler became an absolute dictator. A few weeks later, President Hindenburg dies. The army swears personal loyalty to Hitler. Internal opposition is destroyed. The SS, which carried out the order, receives full independence. This is the instrument Himmler will direct toward the creation of the concentration camps and the Holocaust. And what happened to the SA after his death says everything. Hitler appointed as the new SA commander a man named Victor Lutz, a deliberately weak, unambitious, politically harmless figure. The SA was transferred from Munich to Berlin, so Hitler could keep watch on it. Functions were handed over to the SS. By 1935, SA membership had fallen by 40%, from 3 million to 1.8 million. By 1938, to 1.2 million. The organization that Röhm had built from 77,000 to 4 million over 3 years was dismantled in 4. Without him, it had no reason to exist. Röhm understood something about Hitler that almost no one else did. That behind the speeches and the ideology, Hitler was above all a politician. Flexible, calculating, willing to betray anyone when the moment demanded it. Röhm believed their friendship was the one thing that could not be shaken. He was wrong. And in the end, the man who built Hitler's army, who funded his newspaper, who stood beside him on the streets of Munich, who called him Adolf when the whole world called him Führer, died in a prison cell, alone, still expecting an old friend to walk through the door.